All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I'm Rob. For those of you guys who don't know me, if it's something to do with RoamWorks, actually, heck, if it's something to do with anything with the company, ultimately it's my fault. So, let me go ahead and throw tomatoes if you feel so inclined. Um, I've, we'll see if I make my reflex save. All right. Are you saying that I'm old and slow?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Then that's even more of an insult. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to shut up now and go back to doing what I came here to do, which is you can see all the tiny little shrunk screens. All right, so we're here. Can I minimize this out of the way? Yes, I can. Good. So we have to stare at that the whole time. All right, so tips and tricks. And how many of you guys are here for the second seminar after this? Okay. All right. Because basically, they're going to tie into each other on so many levels. For those of you who don't have something immediately to leave to afterwards, you may find it useful to also be part of the next seminar, simply because the lion's share of that content is also going to be useful for just in your own games, and doing stuff for just having it prepped for. It's lots of tricks in that seminar about making your content be ready for. No, go away. Um, uh, it's really focused on things that will let you share your content effectively, but those tips and tricks are often going to be things that you're going to want to leverage for yourself as well. So, okay, tips and tricks. I am going to make an assumption that everybody in here has at least a basic familiarity with what ROMWorks is and a few of the core terms. Is there anybody here who is not familiar with ROMWorks, at least from having gone through like a demo in our booth or something?
I've only the basic.
Okay, so you haven't seen even a demo in the booth or
Oh, I
anything?
saw it. I didn't see a demo of the booth, but I took one of the previous
Seminars?
1Ds.
Oh,
But,
okay.
but the funny thing is everybody in there seemed to be like a beta user, and they were way ahead of where I was like going, I don't understand what you guys are talking about.
That should be fine. That should be fine, as long as if I throw words like topics and snippets and plots around, if you're
Okay,
familiar with some of those.
I have rough ideas of what you're talking about.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Don't
Uh,
worry about me. I'll
okay.
catch up.
You'll catch up. All right. Now, everything that I'm going to be going over is stuff that I've called out of and maybe expounded on a little bit from what's already in the tips and tricks guide that is part of the RoamWorks documentation. It's like, I don't know, some fat tome of stuff that still has lots of TBDs where we've got things we still need to get folded into it. And so definitely take a look at that document. There's a lot of stuff in there. And I'm going to just basically doing a bunch of the highlights of things that I think are the most important. All right. So, important thing is ROMWorks is a philosophical shift. Um, there's everything that you're used to doing. And yes, you can use ROMWorks as a better, faster way of doing many of those things. But there's also some new ways we're trying to do things within ROMWorks that we think are the right way. At least the beta team so far seem to give us generally positive feedback on stuff. So it's perfectly valid to use ROMWorks as like just an evolutionary step, but there's some things that will be a new way of thinking within ROMWorks. Don't get scared by that, because change is often scary. Change can also be good. I mean, when they introduced like the iPod and the iPhone, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know about that, but pretty cool things. Most of us take those for granted now. Hopefully, RoamWorks can fall into that same category. Fingers crossed. All right, so I'm going to skip, since we lost some time there at the beginning, the content overview stuff, because everybody pretty much has a basic grounding in just these basic terms and the basic mechanics concepts like linking and relationships, containment, aliases, and stuff. All right, so RoamWorks is like a Swiss Army knife. There's a whole crap ton of features inside of it. Don't try to know and understand them all before you dive in. It will make your head hurt and probably leak stuff out your ears. For those of you who've been on the beta team, you've had like years now to assimilate it all. And some of them are still going on our farms. Oh, wow, I discovered a new feature that I didn't know was there. And these is somebody who's been on the team for, a year or two. So it's perfectly fine that you don't use everything. How many of you guys are familiar with like Photoshop and tools like that? Do you use everything in Photoshop? Okay, yeah. You still get a lot of useful stuff out of it, right? Same thing with RealmWorks. And don't feel like you're hurting yourself for not using features. You'll grow into them. When you find like, God, I wish there was a better way of doing this, at that point, take a look. There may be some way we've come up with that is a better way, but don't worry about it till you need it. All right, so important thing, basic philosophy when diving in with RealmWorks is experiment. Create yourself what we call as a sandbox realm. You can create as many realms as you want. You can have thousands of realms if you want. Granted, it's going to be a long list to wade through, but you can have plenty of them. Create yourself one or two that are just your play space to play around with new techniques, new features that you haven't tried before, and try out different techniques with it. Find out what works for you. In the same way that everybody has their own unique GMing style, we've really taken great pains with RealmWorks to try to have it be something that will work well from many different aspects of use. So just let yourself experiment and find out what works best for you. There's no right way, and don't plan on getting it right the first time either. RealmWorks is reasonably forgiving. If you want to change your structure for how you want your topics, the category definitions that your topics are built on, great, no problem. You can do that, and it's not like you're stuck with whatever you start with. Same thing when you're starting to enter content. Don't feel obligated. If you see let me switch over to like RealmWorks here. If you see something that looks like this guy, which is a brand new, I just called him the dude. And so here we've got just tons and tons of empty spots, empty things where if I go into edit mode, now we've got all this little prompting stuff for things you might want to enter into this different area, like reputation down here, physical description, etc. You don't have to follow this guide at all. This is here as fuel for thought to get the creative juices going. If you find it useful, great. You're free to ignore it. Don't feel like you're obligated to fill in all this stuff for every single NPC. Now, you're probably going to want to fill in most of this stuff for the big bad evil guy that's the center of the whole thing, and maybe a pivotal NPC that is an ally to the PCs. But for the guy who runs the local bakery, all you need is 2 lines of color about how his general personality is, and you're done. And that's perfectly fine. We found that some people felt like they had to go in and, oh, it's all there, I got to do it. And it's like, no, just start small and then let RealmWorks feel your ideas and build up from there. So this comes into what I mentioned earlier about RealmWorks, choose an approach. You can do things many different ways. What we found from our beta team is there's really 4 core methods that people approach as a GM creating their world. There are those that do what we call breadth first. Okay, I've got the idea for a bunch of different places and a bunch of different people, and now they're going to interact in these interesting ways. And if it starts with just a lot of different players and a lot of different bits, and then you start building up how they all relate to each other. Others will basically go what we call depth first. Think Lord of the Rings or something. It all centers on the rings, and there's Sauron, and then depending on where you're at with it, there's Bilbo, and then there's Frodo, and Gandalf, and that's about it. And from those core elements, then all the other ancillary characters start getting folded in and woven in, and that's perfectly fine. You can do that within RealmWorks. Some people start with maps and images. I got this gorgeous map. What am I going to do with it? So thinking of your stuff just sprang to mind. It's like, God, they got this gorgeous map. So from there, it's perfectly reasonable to start with a map, start throwing some pins on it, and then attach some topics to those pins. That's a great way of tackling it. And then plot. Some people are all about the story and how all the different relationships all weave together. And some, you got this big epic plot line and then a few little minor plot lines, and you flesh that out in the overall flow of stuff. We've got the storyboard for that. From there, you can then start fleshing out the individual scenes and events that are tied to that plot. How any way you want to skin it, it's perfectly fine. Figure out what works best for you and start there with RomeWorks, and then branch out into the other aspects when it's time. All right, so for getting content in, one of the most important things that RomeWorks does is auto-link your content. So get your topic names in first. If you don't, then like here, I can type in something like, I've just got some, this is like Rise of the Runelords Chapter 1 that happens to be in here right now. So I can just type in the names of a few of the different NPCs, Walia hates a Mako or something silly like that, and it'll automatically link things. Now, if I don't, oh, it helps if I actually spell her name right, doesn't it? Try it again, there we go. If I don't have Nualia in here yet, or I don't have a Mako in here, let's say I just say, okay, I'm going to add some new NPC, but loves Fred. All right. Now at this point, if I hit save, then there's nothing to link to because there's no Fred. So this is one of the coolest things for me, and that's why I'm highlighting it right at the front. It's what we call quick create. Control Q. Control Q is your best friend. Control Q will let you, without having to stop and go off to another tab to create things, I can say, oh, I need Fred. So I can come in and let me create an individual named Fred. Done. Now I'm right back and I can go back to typing. And if I go in, and so like now if I hit save, Fred's known. Fred's there. And then I can say, and George. So Control Q again, and now it's pre-populated here with people and individual. So all I got to do is type in George. Done. Then I can hit save, and it's going to link up. So you can get stuff in and leverage the auto-linking capability of RomeWorks very fast during your brainstorming as you're just coming up with ideas without it being a major interruption of your creative flow. And that's something that I know for me at least is really, really important. If I've got this brilliant idea, it finally just flashed in my head, I want to type in a bunch of stuff. If I got to stop and go fiddle with creating new topics everywhere, it really just breaks that flow. If I can hit Control Q, type in a name, Control Q, type in a name, it's like I can do that without losing my brain flow of what of this cool idea I've got coming up. All right, so important thing, disambiguate your topics. It's very enticing for somebody like me, and I think I'm not alone in this, to end up referring to things with the same name, just some generic name, because I'm not, I don't have a lot of, when it comes to naming stuff, I suck. How about that? So important thing is making sure that you don't just have a bunch of Freds and Georges and whatever and all the lame names I can come up with for content. Come up with at least some mildly distinct difference, Freddie versus Fred versus Frederick versus what have you, if you're like me and really stuck and not good at that and you have to circle back later to come up with names. So that way you can leverage all of the content linking very effectively. If I go in and I use quick create here and I create another George, it's going to tell me, do I want to create it anyways? I can say yes. And now I can go and create another link here to and George. RomeWorks will tell me I have George and George. Thank you, that's helpful. I've got two Georges, but which one's which? So give yourself some differentiation. Now, where the collision thing is really useful is when you've got multi-word names, or when you've got a ship named the Boston and the city of Boston. You can quickly differentiate that, because down here it will say, it will give you the indication that one's a place, or one's a person, and one's a vehicle, exactly. So you got the little icon differentiating. But in the case of two people named George, not so good. So in that case, definitely differentiate your names even ever so slightly. You can go back later and rename them to your heart's content. Use prefix identifiers. So they come in great with map codes and that type of stuff. For, I don't know, where's a good spot? Do I have something? Yeah, here's a good spot. You can see here for the Sandpoint Glass Works and such. I've got here various rooms of importance where stuff takes place here. And I can either show them without the prefix identifiers, or I can show, in which case the identifier will be put after it, so you can still tell the room number. So if like you want an alphabetical listing of places. But here, it makes it a lot easier to have them all organized based on the actual room designation code that's associated with it, especially when you're looking at a map. So, and you'll also notice here that A1, A5, A14, A16, RealmWorks has what is more traditionally referred to as natural sorting. So if you like were to type into most computer programs A1, A10, or A1, A2, A3, A10, 11, it'll sort it as A1, A10, A11, A2, A3, because that's what computers do. Natural sorting means that, oh, here's a letter, here's numbers, here's letters again. It breaks them all up into pieces so that all the numbers are grouped together as numbers and sorted as numbers. So this all works cleanly here. Otherwise, it would be A1, A14, A16, all the way up to A23, then A5. Not so useful. All right. So what makes a good snippet is an important thing. Snippet, the definition of a snippet to us is an individually revealable piece of information. So when you're running your game, the ideal is to not interrupt the flow of play while you go in and block out a sentence that of information the players just learned. If you think of like how material is generally published, you've got all the long prose where in the span of one paragraph, there's 5 different bits of information the PCs may or may not learn depending on how the scene unfolds. Or different scenes in different places of the game may actually reveal different aspects of that. If you are in the middle of the game, have to like parse that up, it disrupts the flow of the game. So the ideal then is to break those up in advance into discrete snippets. That way, when it comes to the game, if you've got your, like here, if I've got everything up in front of me, I can just click the button and boom, it's been revealed. Click, revealed. And I can know that this bit of information down below here has no relationship to the bits above. Well, I mean, they're related, but not necessarily to the scene. If the PCs, another cool thing with this is there's what we call, well, actually, before I do that, there's text snippets. There's also tag snippets, which you can break up based on the nature. Let's say I've got, here's a classic example. You've got the NPC that is a rogue, but also has some sorcerer capabilities, but they don't let on that. And that's like their ace up the sleeve in case, things go sideways. So you may want to actually reveal to the players that, oh, this is a rogue. And then later, oh crap, oh god, they've got spells too. We're in deep doo-doo. So that's something that is simple to just have 2 separate tag-based snippets. Normally, you're probably used to, if you look at as I switch over to like the dude. Yeah, go ahead and change that. All right, so let's say he's, I can add a class. What's a good, oh, I'm just going to use something fast here instead. Here we go. Oh, go away. All right, so using the example there, the commoner, and it's a rogue and a sorcerer. All right, now at this point, if I reveal class, it's all or nothing. So what I really want to do is go in here and get rid of the sorcerer, and just go in and add a new snippet. Let's say tag-based snippet. Well, actually, I didn't want to do that. I could go ahead and add another class snippet. So let's actually delete this. Come on. All right. So add types for this section, class. Now I can go in and add a sorcerer. And so now I've got, and I can drag this on up. Now I've got two different, God, this laptop is old and slow. All right. So the now at this point, I've got the two separate class snippets that I can reveal individually of each other. So when it comes time, I just say, oh, it's a rogue. At some point down the line, they decide they're going to jump this guy, and things go sideways because they didn't know. Oh, by the way, also sorcerer. All right. So GM direction snippets. Sorry, I'm flying through this as fast as I can. If you guys have like questions pertinent to this stuff, just fire away.
Yeah. Does the extra classes integrate with your lab, or do you have to actually enter in the separate class additionally?
You need to enter that information into RomeWorks. RomeWorks is game system neutral. It doesn't know anything about Pathfinder versus any other game system.
Hero Lab. I don't know. I don't have Hero Lab yet. I was getting it after this.
You can tie your. I can show you how that works, where they're tied in a little bit, but it won't actually pull discrete information like this is the class that goes to this tag.
Okay.
It won't do that level. Okay, so then for GM direction snippets, the focus of a GM direction snippet is on information that is for your eyes only. More often than not, there's going to be stuff that you're going to be wanting to reveal to the players, and there's going to be all the little details that are only for you, and you don't want the players having any clue about this stuff. If you just go with all the default stuff, every single snippet is revealable. Also, every single snippet then you can drag and drop around, so information could become decoupled. So the best thing to do there is use what we call GM directions. And so here you can see with this the relationships, there's the various folks that are associated with Reese's Place. Now, they're basically unimportant. They're just flavor for this particular area. So these, if they were more important, it would make sense to put them off as separate topics. Here, they're not, because why create an extra topic? This is actually a future slide, so I'll jump to it now. Why create an extra topic for 2 lines of text? Do you really need an extra topic for that? Probably not. If the person is only ever going to be found in the bakery, and the PCs may or may not ever even go to the bakery, no need to clutter up everything with having an extra topic. So just throw that information into the bakery. And if you decide later that that NPC all of a sudden has a role to play in your story, there's no reason you can't create a topic for that NPC at that point in time and move those 2 snippets over to that new topic and flesh it out further as that NPC now has an important role inside the game. Here, though, you can see that the snippet that would be revealed is Risa is a female human sorcerer. Well, the fact that she's neutral good, the fact that she's a 4th level sorcerer, those are details the PCs aren't supposed to know in general. I mean, they might learn that, I guess, possibly, but generally not. So that's information for your eyes only. If I want to move this snippet around, let's go into edit mode and do that. I want those 2 bits of information to stay together. I'm just throwing it in a random place. I don't want these 2 bits to be split off from each other, which is what I'd have to do if I only wanted to reveal one piece but not the other. So we have what we call GM directions, and this is a component of the snippet that is for your eyes only. If you reveal this snippet, at this point, the players will see Risa is a female human sorcerer. They will not see the alignment. They will not see that she's 4th level. This is also great for situations where, let's say you've got like a, to learn this information, they need to roll a DC 25 knowledge nature check. Great, throw that above the actual blurb, and it's right there for your reference, and you're off and running. Let's throw this stuff away. All right, so we also do rumors, lies, and half-truths. That information is only ever seen by you. If I'm in here, I can say that, just randomly again, this snippet is actually has a truth level of, well, this is a bold-faced lie. And you can see now that there's that purplish pink or whatever box around it. And it's more visible if I actually save this and now switch out into view mode. It's much more visible that there's that box outlining it. That's like a visual cue to you. The PCs will never know this information. They won't know it at all. If I want, I can also go in and I can change this. Well, it's actually partially true. And then you can see that we use the dashed line around it. So that's something that's great for you as a visual reminder about what is and isn't truth. And then you can use GM directions to explain any additional detailed reminders about what is and isn't true about this, especially for partial truths. Yeah.
So if we have a partial truth that the players find out is a partial truth, or a lie they find out is a lie, is that something we should create then as a separate snippet, or move GM directions into the snippet and then adjust that? Or is there some way to have that notation revealed to the players?
At that point, is that something you can do whatever you want in there? So different GMs may want to do it differently. Some of the GMs that I've played with, it's like, well, the PCs need to remember that that wasn't really true. In which case, you don't want to necessarily make a note there. The players need that in their own notes that could reference that topic. Then other GMs may want to just say, yeah, you know that was a lie. And so really, it's your call as to how you want to do that. If you want to actually go, probably the easiest thing might be to simply, since the players will never see that partial truth outline, is at that point just add a little annotation into the snippet itself that simply says, you know, only this half is true. Sure. All right, so already kind of covered this. Only use what you need. So let's see here. Efficient topic editing. Most people, when they see RoamWorks with all the different fields, I'll switch back to the dude again, are going to go, oh, that's got to be so annoying to type in all that stuff. And then they switch from one snippet to the next to the next. So we've got some nice convenience mechanisms for editing things. So for example, I can go in and I can just do Control-T. Control-T is your friend. And create a new text snippet at the bottom of this section that I'm currently in. I can type in a bunch of random stuff and Control-Key again. Type, 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 type. I can also then use the arrow keys. Up and down. All of these are all as if they are one contiguous document. And it's not only going to move through the things you can actually edit. You can also, let's say you are doing a whole bunch of just brainstorming. I just got all this junk text coming in. Just stream of consciousness, I'm typing, 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 and it's many snippets worth of text. Or, more commonly, you've got your Word doc or something like that, or a PDF if you're using published stuff, where you're bringing content in from. At that point, just copy the whole multiple paragraphs in and paste it. And then split it up. So I can go in here and say, okay, well, that little bit up to there, that's a snippet. Control-Enter. For those of you guys who are used to word processor, that's inserting a page break. So Control Enter, and then I can come in, there's another snippet, Control Enter. There's another snippet worth, Control Enter. I've never had to stop and go fiddle with the mouse to make this happen. I can also go, oh no, you know, those really should be one. When they learn this piece up here, they're going to learn this other piece over here. So as long as they're contiguous next to each other, you can use Control M for merge. So let's go in, and why is it not? It was working just earlier
They
today.
actually found that in the first panel that we did earlier today, that it's broken in your current beta build.
Oops. Okay then. Well, then.
Yeah.
All right. So
One is supposed to merge with the one above or the one below?
the one below. So I can say, here it is in the menu, merge with next snippet. This should be tied to Control M. So it works if I go to the menu. Okay. I'm sorry, you had a question? Okay, great. All right. So you can also use, that's right. You can also use control arrows to jump up entire snippets at a time. If you've got snippets that have many paragraphs of text, just like a word processor, like Word and most of them, if you do a control up arrow, control down arrow, it'll jump you one paragraph at a time. Well, with RoamWorks, you jump one snippet at a time. So it's a very efficient way, just with a keyboard, to bounce around without having to go through the entirety of every line of each snippet. And then the last thing is, for those of you who are bringing stuff in from PDF published material, and that's how to bring in that content. There are all sorts of weird vagaries that go on with PDFs. If any of you have ever tried to copy and paste out of a PDF, there's all the fun line breaks and distributed everywhere and the weird formatting stuff, and it is just so annoying. So we have Control-Alt-V, just like Control-V for paste, but Control-Alt-V. What that does is it pastes with stripping out all that crap. All those multiple lines just get run together so that there's a space between them. And so it's as if you just had one contiguous paragraph of text or many paragraphs of text, and then all of that weird formatting stuff gets stripped out. So at that point, with one keystroke, you can copy a big block of PDF text in, and then go about using the techniques I just showed you for breaking it up into the snippets that you want. Yes, ma'am.
What about if you're copying and pasting a couple of paragraphs? Is it going to combine it into one?
It will. It will.
PDF.
If you use this Control-Alt-V. The reason it does that is we can't tell from the PDF whether that was the end of a paragraph or the end of a line, because of the way the PDF is set up. End of a paragraph is the end of a line. So we can't differentiate it, and there's also the assumption that you're going to break that up into individual snippets anyways. So as you're going through from start to finish of that block, you're generally going to, usually I would think, at a paragraph break, that's going to break into a new snippet anyways. So it's pretty much the same flow of going through step by step. Any other questions on that stuff? Okay. All right, so I already talked about this briefly. Some topics are unnecessary, like minor NPCs. Just stick them in the location where they're found. Non-complex locations, another great example. You can just have a map pin that says, this is an empty storage room. You don't need a whole topic dedicated to that room, that it's an empty storage room. You'll find yourself, if you do that, with 4,000 empty storage room topics after you get a lot of stuff in. Same thing with simple plot points. Some plot points are just, I guess a good example in Rise of Runelord stuff is, let me actually just bring up a new tab and go to storyboard and local heroes. Yeah, go away. All right. So in here, there's this central plot node. the way this this overall chapter unfolds, that there's the first place where everything starts, the Desecrated Vault, and then, well, these are the heroes that have been, just saved Sandpoint, so they're basking around town, enjoying the glory of it, and there's a bunch of different encounters they can go to and different things they can interact with in the town. There's no particular order they need to happen in. And then ultimately they're going to get the Grim Dudes from Mosswood, and that's going to sort of catapult them off into the further adventures. This central node here is basically just a place that everything sort of radiates out of. I don't need a topic associated with this, because all it really is, well, the PCs are basking in the glory, hanging out, and having fun. All of these are major events that go on around them, and so you can see that they're associated with scene topics here. But there's no topic associated with this. Use what makes sense. Don't feel obligated to always create topics for everything. When it's justified, do it. It will simplify your life, because the moment you create a new topic, now there's this separate piece that you now need to navigate to. It also clutters up your list of all your topics. So if it's inconsequential, deal with it in some other way. With note the annotation on the mat pin, the annotation on the plot point, what have you.
So that's a note in the plot point for local heroes. So that's how it's displayed. How do you display basking in the glory from the local heroes topic?
The local heroes is not a topic.
Oh, okay.
Local heroes is basically the out of the story. There's like, okay, the way this all starts. This is not spoiler for any, unless you've never played any sort of RPGs before. The way it starts is the heroes are in town for some unknown reason, and then the goblins attack. They help fend off the goblins, and now as a result, the town lauds them for their bravery in thwarting the goblin raid. And so this is basically the next major arc within the story, nothing more. So overall, I mean, actually you can see that Festival and Fire is like the first. If you go Burnt Offerings, starts with the Swallowtail Festival, which actually, if I want to view this, I can actually say, okay, let's actually turn these to be, what you want to call it? Oh, that's not what yeah, there we go. Change the order on this. A little easier. These are all, this is the sequence of events. Swallowtail Festival expands out into this sequence of events. It's very, very scripted. Once you get to be the local heroes, now it ends up being a lot more freeform. But it's just how the various events can play out. There's no like topic specifically describing this. All right, aliases. Make use of aliases. Is everybody familiar with what aliases are? Cool, okay, good. So aliases can be really valuable also for nicknames. They can be a godsend for plurals. If you've got something that's like a goblin and goblins, for example. If you've got a lot of goblins in your game and you find yourself needing to type in goblins on a regular basis, but the topic for the monster entry is goblin, give it an alias of goblins, and then everywhere throughout your content, it'll just automatically link it up.
You trade for those unpronounceable Pathfinder names.
Yes. The ones you misspell on a regular basis, all your favorite misspellings, just create them as aliases, and they'll all go to the right place. Also, it's a great tool for using alternate names within content. So I mentioned that, for Susie, who owns the bakery, it's not important to actually have a separate topic for it. But you may actually decide at some point that, or the PCs may then go, oh, well, Susie's my best friend now. Or, you've got the guy that's, all of a sudden the way it role plays out, oh, now I got a crush on Susie. Okay, fine. Now Susie becomes more important, but you really don't want to spend a lot of time on this. But Susie gets referenced in a few places now. Well, you can leave or still part of the bakery and simply have an alias of, from the bakery, just Susie. And now, whenever you mention Susie, it will actually link to the bakery where Susie's information happens to be. So, convenient technique you can use. An important thing also with aliases is they are revealable. So, you don't have to, just because you come up with a name doesn't mean that the players need to know that information. Leverage that. There are many cases where having private aliases can be very, very useful. The key thing with aliases, okay. The other thing is don't go crazy. Just use what you need on aliases, because if you really want to leverage aliases heavily, you're probably going to want to have them displaying in the here sort of thing. So you can see like Chilaxian and Chelish are aliases. Chilaxian is an alias for Chelish here. And there's, you'll see a variety of them in here as just aliases. They're slightly grayed out, so we can demarcate them appropriately. But if you end up with multiple aliases for every topic, this list is just going to explode. So be judicious in your use of aliases. Use them where they will be truly helpful for what you're trying to accomplish.
But you can turn it off so that you're not seeing the alias.
Yes, you can absolutely come up and say, don't show me any aliases. The problem is that it's all or nothing. So if you use aliases heavily and come to rely on them, and you're looking people up through their aliases, then you're going to want to have them visible. So that's the trade-off. That's one of the things on our down the road to-do list that we want to do, is have it where you can actually say, yeah, show this alias, or this is for linking only, for like your typos, and the goblin versus goblins type thing. But we don't have that in place yet. For modeling dungeons, let me actually bring up something here. We've got, here we go, Thistletop. Thistletop is an area where there's the actual location here, and you notice this is almost all GM direction snippets in this case, because this is just context for the GM here. But there's the map associated with it, and if I view the map, at this point now, I've got just the map of this particular level. But what I really want, that's useful when I want to muck with the map, but what I actually want is here, I've got the area, then I've got all the different locations within that area, then I've got down here, this would be the level 1 below ground area, and then all of the individual locations within that, then the level as well beneath that, etc. So now at this point, it's all encapsulated underneath the overall location of Thistletop here. And I've also got each of the different, just bouncing around here, each of the different locations is available for access.
How do you recommend picking the encounters when you have location-based areas like that? So, like, for example, like, Tango Beach Den or whatever, C6 out of encounters, right?
Okay.
You could obviously make an encounter or a scene with
right.
an encounter type on the combat or whatever that was there. It's also linked to this C6 area.
Right.
So how do you recommend sort of balancing where you're going to place that information?
From our standpoint, the information about the scene, if there's anything that's really going to play out beyond just something short and sweet, would be something you'd probably want to put into a scene-based topic. That's what we've got here. So, and if like the hidden entrance has got a fair bit of information associated with it. Read the following text aloud. So I can just go ahead and hit the reveal button. And after I've read this text aloud, read the following text aloud is GM directions. So that's not going to show up to the players. There's the actual read aloud text. Once I read it, I can just click the button. They've got that information. And then I can also attach various portfolios. So if I go to, what's a good example? I think it's Gogmert's Lair. So yes, here you can see we've got an actual scene portfolio associated with it. that I could actually go in, and we've got the integrate with running program option here. If Hero Lab's up and I've got the PC's characters all loaded into Hero Lab, this will actually just send the portfolio for this encounter to Hero Lab directly and weave it right on in, so you're off and running. So that is our concept, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be optimal for the way you run your games.
Yeah, I've done the same thing with putting in private ringwords into realm first. I'm in book 3 right now. And
Okay.
I'm starting to struggle with tension with where you place counter specific information. Combat's really an area where I've been struggling with how you think a combat is associated when it's on both a plot, a map, and a scene all at the same time.
Let me actually flip to, where's a good example of that? Is that here?
Like area A17 in the Glassworks is probably the first encounter.
Yeah.
Because it's against the goblins plot, the Glassworks room, and the encounter is the goblins.
Got it. So what we did there is we've got the Glassworks here as a topic, and in the Glassworks there's the context about what's going on in and around the overall Glassworks. As you know, the goblins may do X, the goblins may do Y. That information is actually it's under the challenges here, totally with the Glassworks itself, and then information about the obstacles that sort of applies to various locations within the overall Glassworks. And then A17 itself, if we load this, now starts out, see the Sandpoint Glassworks for entry for details on this fight. So if I come here, it's like, oh yeah, I need that info. It's just a link right there, and I can go grab that very quickly. The goal is to not duplicate a bunch of information and try to get it in one spot, but still cross-link it so it's readily accessible when you're trying to run the game.
Yeah, I've been making a room just like you got right now, but then also making a scene with the same title and using the containing topic to coordinate them together in the same volume, essentially, so they're side by side.
Got it.
That's how it's kind of key, so it takes up some more space within your
Yeah. So it's for us. What we've done is we've pretty much consolidated things so that there's the one scene topic that encapsulates what's going on, and then there may be maps associated with that. Actually, I just thought there's at the very beginning of everything, that's actually down here, there's like the initial assault and such, the Swallowtail Festival. So for that, there's the read aloud text. There's also the map, which actually, if I bring this up in another tab, this particular map shows me the actual tactical layout with, okay, these are where the different goblins are located. So you can tie that in that way, but it's all within one scene topic. So it keeps it down to one topic and a bit more manageable. At least that's our thinking on it. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, since Chris has shown up, that means we're probably, oh yeah, we're like end here. So let me finish up with modeling dungeons real quick. Use prefix identifiers to tie stuff back to the maps. So you can see, where was that? Back on, like, is it here? Yeah, you got the prefix identifiers for the various room codes as example. That makes your life a lot easier, especially when you view with the prefix identifier. Use maps for each level, and then use pins liberally, and then attach the scene topics to those pins is what we found to be the most effective way of doing stuff. And another important thing, not everything needs a topic. Secret doors, you don't need a topic for it. Just have that information tied to the pin. Simple traps, same sort of thing. If it's a long drawn out trap that you're going to want to that plays out more as a scene, then yes, have that be a separate topic. But if there's a 10-foot pit at the bottom that does this much damage if they don't notice the pressure plate right there. Okay, that can just be on the pin, and it's 2-3 sentences. That's it. You don't need to create a whole new topic for that. So I guess we're out of time. So if you guys, are there any new people going to be showing up for the content seminar? Oh, we do have one. Okay, we have a couple. Okay, all right. Then if you guys need to, like, there's going to be a lot of overlap if you guys are interested. Stuff that I'm going to be going over in that seminar for the folks of you who are here. So if you're interested, please, you're welcome to stay. If not, then help yourselves. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks. And if you guys have questions, most of the development team and most of the data file content guys are all here at the booth. And so come by, ask us questions, and we'll show you things, show you the tricks we've come up with, etc. Answer whatever questions you got. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks for watching our Gen Con 2014 seminar, Realmworks Tips and Tricks. Be sure to explore the other videos on our channel, and make sure to check out Realmworks at www.getrealmworks.com.